Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We are going to be focusing on how to improve your online learning, especially when it comes to using English. We've got articles, guides, and even a podcast episode all about how to really become an expert in the world of online learning.
Not just survive, but really thrive, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's really interesting how much online learning has grown so much. But it can feel like everybody else already knows what to do.
totally. Okay, so let's figure that out. What's the first thing that people should know when they start looking into online learning?
It's kind of like going into a giant online library. First, you have to know where to go. Platforms like Coursera and Udemy are really big, but they're more for people who just want to learn for fun. Then you have places like edX and Khan Academy, which are more focused on academic topics. Oh, and don't forget about LinkedIn Learning. That one is all about helping you grow in your career. I mean, saying, I just enrolled in an AI course on Coursera sounds very different from, I'm taking a data science specialization on edX, don't you think?
It's like choosing the right tool for the job. I already feel like I'm thinking more strategically, just knowing that. Okay, so let's say you found the perfect platform and course. How do you talk about signing up and what you can expect?
Well, that's where knowing the right words is important. It's not just saying, I joined a course. You can be more specific and say, I enrolled in a digital marketing course that's self-paced, so I can really work on it whenever I have time. Being able to describe how the course is structured shows that you're really involved and understand the format.
I love that. But what about when a course isn't self-paced? Like, what if it has live sessions like one of the sources we read talked about? That part makes me a little nervous.
That's totally understandable. It can feel like you're suddenly on stage, but just imagine saying with confidence, my course has live Q&A sessions every week, so I can ask questions and get answers directly. That's a great way to show you're not just passively watching videos, you're really participating.
Okay, that does make it seem less scary. It's like, hey, I'm part of this. But what about when things go wrong? Like, what if there are technical problems? That's always my biggest worry with online learning.
Oh yeah, those tech gremlins. But don't worry, everyone has to deal with those at some point. So instead of panicking, you can just calmly say, I'm having trouble uploading my assignment. Could you help me? Being able to explain those problems clearly and simply is so important for getting the help you need.
It's like knowing the magic words to get things fixed. I feel so much more confident already. But what about when the challenge isn't something technical, but the material itself is really hard?
Well, in that case, you can talk about how you're handling the learning curve. If it's going well, you could say something like, this course is really well organized and I find the content really interesting. But if you're hitting a wall, you might say, some of these concepts are a bit difficult for me, but I'm really determined to figure them out.
That's such a good point. It's about being honest with yourself and others about where you are in the learning process. And that reminds me of something we talked about before, self-paced learning. How can we emphasize that benefit to sound like an online learning pro?
Okay, so think about it this way. When you say, I love being able to learn at my own pace, it not only shows that you understand the different ways courses can be structured, but it also highlights your time management skills, which are so important for online learning. You're the one in control of your learning.
That's really empowering. Okay, so we've talked about platforms, enrolling, and the different structures of courses. Now, what about the social side of things? One of our sources mentioned discussion forums, but to be honest, those can feel really overwhelming to me. Is there a way to talk about them that makes them seem less scary?
Oh, for sure. Discussion forums can sometimes feel like you're jumping into a room full of people, but try thinking about it this way. You could say, I'm really excited to connect with other students in the forum and share different perspectives on the course material. By focusing on the collaborative aspect, rather than just how many comments there are, it can help you approach these forums with a more positive and engaged attitude.
Oh, that's such a smart way to change your perspective. It's not about responding to every single post. It's about finding those meaningful connections and discussions. This is already changing how I think about online learning. But what about those other essential parts like assignments and quizzes? Yeah, we've talked about discussion forums, and I already feel so much better about them thanks to you. But what about the other important parts of online learning, like assignments and quizzes? How do you talk about those things and make it clear that you're on top of everything?
I think it's about showing that you're actively taking care of your workload. So instead of just saying, I have an essay due, you could say, I'm currently working on the final essay for my history course, and I'm really enjoying doing research with the original sources. That makes it sound like you're not just going through the motions, but are actually engaged with what you're learning.
Right. It's like you're showing off your process, not just the final product.
Mhm.
But what about those times when you need extra help from the instructor? It feels kind of weird reaching out to them online, you know?
Yeah, it is definitely different from just raising your hand in a real classroom. But think of it this way. You could say, I would really appreciate it if you could clarify something from this week's lecture, especially the part about specific concept. When you're specific, it shows that you've really thought about the material and that you're taking the initiative to get help.
That definitely makes it less awkward. It's like you're proving to them that you're serious about learning.
Yeah.
And speaking of being serious, one of the things that draws people to online learning is the chance to earn certifications. How do you talk about those in a way that highlights how valuable they are?
Well, getting a certification is a big deal, so don't be shy about it. Instead of just saying, I got a certificate, try saying something like, I just finished a data science program on edX and earned a professional certification. I'm excited to see how this can help my career. See how that emphasizes not just the achievement itself, but also what it could mean for your future.
Totally. It's like you're creating a picture of yourself being successful. But let's face it, finding the time for online learning, especially when you're already busy with other things, can be a huge obstacle. How can we talk about that struggle in a positive way?
It's about acknowledging the difficulty, but also focusing on your solutions. You could say, it's a real balancing act to manage work and online learning, but I've made it a habit to set aside specific time each evening for studying. That shows that you're aware of the challenges, but you're actively trying to overcome them.
I like how you frame that. It's like turning a potential weakness into a strength.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes I want to go further than just the course material and really get deep into a topic. Is there a good way to talk about using additional resources to show that I'm taking the initiative?
Definitely. It always makes a good impression to show that you're putting in extra effort. So instead of just saying, I read some articles, you could say, I've been going beyond the course material and watching helpful YouTube tutorials and reading articles to understand things better. It shows that you're not just passively absorbing the course content, but that you're actively seeking out more knowledge.
Wow, you're making me sound like a super dedicated learner. But honestly, what I've been struggling with lately is group projects. They're a common part of online courses, but it can be a real pain to coordinate with people online. How do you even talk about that experience without sounding like you're complaining?
Yeah, group projects can be tough, whether online or in person, but instead of dwelling on the problems, try emphasizing your contributions and the collaborative process. You could say, we're using a project management tool to communicate better and divide the tasks efficiently. It's been really interesting to see how everyone's unique skills are combining to create something great.
So it's all about focusing on the positive aspects and the things you're doing to overcome the obstacles. I can already see how my attitude is changing. But what about when a course is finished? Do you just disappear into the online world? Or is there a way to talk about giving feedback?
Feedback is so important in online learning. It helps instructors improve their courses, and it benefits other students who take the course later. So instead of just giving a star rating, you could say, I wrote a detailed review, pointing out both the good things about the course and the areas that could be better. This shows that you care about the quality of the learning experience for everyone.
So it's about staying involved even after the course is over. But, going back to something you said earlier, all these phrases and techniques are great, but they don't mean much if you haven't figured out your learning goals first. How can we talk about those goals in a way that shows we're serious about learning?
You're right. Defining your goals is the key to staying motivated and focused. Instead of just saying, I want to learn about coding, try saying, my goal is to become really good at Python programming so that I can build my own web applications. Being specific shows that you've put a lot of thought into your learning journey and that you're not just messing around.
That's a great way to say it. It's like you're telling the universe what you want to achieve. I've been wondering, is there ever a debate about online learning versus traditional learning in a classroom? How do people express their preferences in a way that recognizes both sides?
It's a very common debate, and both sides have valid points. So instead of saying online learning is better or traditional classrooms are the only way to learn, you could say, I really like the flexibility of online learning, but sometimes I miss the face-to-face interactions you get in a traditional classroom. That way, you acknowledge the good things about both while still stating your own preference.
That's a very balanced approach. It shows you understand that people learn in different ways and have different preferences. I think what we've talked about in this deep dive goes beyond just online learning, right? These communication skills are useful in all parts of life.
Oh, absolutely. Being able to express yourself clearly and confidently is so important at work, in your personal relationships, and really in any situation where you need to communicate what you're thinking and feeling. Think about it. When you can clearly explain your goals, ask for help effectively, and make meaningful contributions to conversations, you're setting yourself up for success in all areas of your life.
So it's like online learning is a practice ground for these essential life skills. You're not just learning a specific subject, you're learning how to be a better communicator.
Precisely. And that's what I find so fascinating about this topic. It's not just about the technical parts of online learning, but also about the human side of things, how we connect, work together, and express ourselves in this digital age.
It's like we're using our words to build bridges and connect with people from all over the world, creating a global learning community.
And that's a beautiful thing. But as we're wrapping up this deep dive, it makes me think about the power of language, not just to communicate, but also to reflect. As you go through your online courses, take some time to really think about your learning journey. What's working well for you? What challenges are you facing? And most importantly, how can you use language to explain those insights and celebrate what you've achieved?
That's such an important reminder. It's easy to get caught up in deadlines and assignments, but taking a moment to reflect can make the whole experience so much more meaningful and enriching.
Absolutely. So as you continue to explore online learning, remember to embrace the power of language, not just to connect and communicate, but also to reflect, grow, and make your learning experience truly your own.
Yeah, it really is. Like online learning isn't just about taking in information. It's about understanding more about how we learn and how we communicate.
You got it. And that self-awareness is super valuable, not just for online courses, but for life in general, I think.
We've covered a lot in this deep dive, from those practical tips to some really thoughtful ideas about the power of language. What would you say is the most important thing for our listeners to keep in mind as they explore online learning?
That's a really good question. It's tough to pick just one, but I guess if I had to, I'd say it's this. Don't underestimate how powerful your words can be. The way you use language can shape how you think, how you interact with others, and honestly, how successful you are in your online learning journey.
That's a great point. It's like a reminder that we actually have more control over our learning than we might think.
And remember, you're not alone in this. There's a whole community of people out there learning online, all dealing with similar challenges and celebrating those same wins. So don't hesitate to reach out, connect with each other, and learn from one another.
This has been such an insightful and inspiring conversation. I feel like I've gotten a whole new understanding of online learning.
Me too. And I hope our listeners feel the same. Remember, the world of online learning is always changing, but with the right mindset and those good communication skills, you can definitely keep up and achieve amazing things.
To everyone out there who is embracing online learning, remember to use your words carefully, connect with your fellow learners, and never stop exploring those new possibilities.
And until our next deep dive, happy learning, everyone.